Hi everyone, it's Miss Kate.
And Miss Hazel.
Today we are inspired by a really incredible artist. I'm going to show you this book that we bought. Her name is Yayoi Kusama, and she is Japanese. As a young girl, she grew up painting flowers that grew by fields in her house. And now she is an artist. She moved to New York and she became very famous for all of the dots. She did a lot of soft sculptures, so made out of fabric, and very carefully drew or painted dots right on all those sculptures. Miss Hazel and I were fortunate enough to be able to go see an exhibit of hers in Los Angeles, which is really great. And that's where we bought this book. I'm going to read one quote from her. She said once, "Our Earth is only one polka dot among a million stars in the cosmos. Polka dots are a way to infinity." So she has these things called infinity rooms that we got to go in and we got to look in too. I don't know if it's going to show up very well in this, but if it doesn't, go look her up because the infinity rooms are pretty amazing. But we'd stand in and there were mirrors all around us so that they reflected all the dots and it just looked like they went on forever and ever. And it was amazing to me. So now this too, I don't know if you're able to see, but we saw this. It was a pumpkin. There were a whole bunch of pumpkins with dots all over them, and that is what we were being inspired by. And it's October, so here we go. This is made out of plaster strips and newspaper and a bag. I'm going to show you how we did that. So first we took a little lunch bag. Some people, when I was younger, we took our lunches in bags quite often. I know not everyone does that anymore because we have really cool lunch boxes. But a lot of people do that before. So I took a piece of newspaper, crumpled it up, shoved it inside the bag, looked at it, decided, is that enough? And I thought, no, I think I'll add one more piece. So I get one more piece of newspaper and put it inside that bag after I crumple it up. And now it looks like that's a pretty good size. Now you'll see it's not super round shaped when I finish this one, but that's sort of the joy of the whole thing. And I squished it up to make a stem. Took some tape, and remember, if you need to, you could rip off your tape early and then put it on. But I've had a lot of practice ripping masking tape and duct tape and other kinds of tape that we have. So
Kate loves tape.
I do love tape. Tape is really, really fun to play with and build with. And one day I'm going to show you this thing I made out of tape. Miss Hazel thought it was super weird when I made it, but now she kind of likes it. Okay, so I'm going to play around with it and decide what sort of shape I want. And then I'll start with the plaster strips. I don't know if you remember seeing these before. We've used them before. This is like a piece of cheesecloth with plaster all over it. And when we set up for our plaster strips, we're going to use those. Or actually, if any sort of paper mache plan that you're going to do, you would, I almost forgot to, I was going to put newspaper out. Even though we have some paper on this table, I don't want to mess up our table too much. So I'm going to put out some newspaper to keep our workstation clean. I can just get rid of it when we're done. And we always want to have whatever the dry part is. So in this case, it's the plaster strips and the wet part, which is water. And then we have our pumpkin here. So when we do it, take the plaster strip, we put it inside the water, and then through my fingers, I'm going to sort of get off a lot of the water. And then I will carefully start to put this all over my pumpkin. But remember, if you're using the plaster strips, you'll want to rub over them so that they don't get, so that the plaster is all filled in all the spots. And then you'll keep going and going until the whole thing is covered. And then you're going to need to go put it somewhere to dry. I didn't show you one other thing that you need. If you're using plaster strips or really any sort of paper mache, whatever, if it's flour and water or glue and water, whatever you're going to use, make sure that you have somewhere to wash your hands after. I like to have some sort of a bucket next to me so that I don't put all that down the drain, because plaster especially is bad for your drains. But all that clumpy flour and water or the glue, you don't really want that down the drains in your sink. So now I've rinsed off my hands. They're good to go. And imagine that I've just gone and gone and gone, and I filled the whole thing, and I let it dry. I painted it orange.
That was fast.
It was super fast, I know. Of course, my hands are wet. But then, here comes the fun part. Now we're going to start thinking about what sorts of dots we want to make on this. So I'm using black acrylic, but you could use anything. I did think about using a permanent marker, but decided that I wouldn't do that in this case. So when you think about a pumpkin, and you want it to look like it has all those ridges on it, one way to do that is to make curvy lines. Let me get some paint on here. So I'm going to make a curvy line going down toward the bottom. See, it's got started up here in the center, and then I went all the way around. I used this brush earlier, so I may need to grab a different brush, because this one now is sort of hard because I was using acrylic. But I'll make do. And then I'm going to make another one over on this side, all the way up to the top. And I'll go back over them to kind of fill in, but that just gave me an idea of where my lines were. And then from there, I'm going to make more lines. Again, following this curve, I'll go around this way. And following the other curve, the other side, I'm going to go in that same way. And then that gives you the idea that the pumpkin has all the different ridges. Have any of you ever been to a pumpkin patch? I like going to pumpkin patches. They're fun. You get to see the way the farmers grew the pumpkins. Because when I was younger, I think I only saw them in stores. I didn't know anyone who grew them, and we didn't have any farms near where I grew up. But around here in the Bay Area, it's not that far. You could just drive even just like a half an hour and you could be at a farm. So it's pretty great. So I'll keep doing this all the way around, and then I'll start with my different circles, my dots. So it could be any sort of pattern that you want. And this can take a really long time. This could take you days. You could decide that on these two pieces, which I'm going to make the same, I want to actually just do dots. So I'll make lots of dots all the way down. And I'll keep filling up the different spaces, and I'll go all the way around my pumpkin. On this one, I actually haven't finished the backside because it does take me days. I started in the middle and I did lots of circles. And then on the sides, I did lots of little dots, and then some kind of like half dots on the side. And then the next row would be bigger dots. But you can make it any way you want, which is really fun part about this. It's just spending a lot of time thinking about dots and learning a little bit about Yayoi Kusama. And then you have a nice little something to put out for Halloween. And it will last too. At the end of Halloween, you could pack this up, put it in your Halloween decoration box if you have one, and then take it out again the next year. So remember, Yayoi Kusama. And if you like our video, you could subscribe, and that way you'll know when new videos are coming up. It would show you each time we make a new one. And if you make one of these, would you please take a picture, have your parents take a picture and send it to us, either by email or post it on Instagram with the hashtag Alameda Arts Fun. Okay, thanks everybody. Happy October.
Bye, friends.